Page 19, When the Saints Go Marching In. Introducing dotted half note and upbeats. Upbeats are also known as other things. We'll talk about them. First, the dotted half note. Well, a half note in 4/4 time gets 2 counts. The dot for any note gets half the value of the note. So if the half note gets 2 counts, the dot's going to get 1 count. You put them together. So a dotted half note in 4/4 time gets 3 counts. Another way of looking at it, a half note is equal to 2 quarter notes. It doesn't matter what the time signature is, it's always 2 quarter notes. Well, in that case, the dot's going to be worth 1 quarter note in this case. So the two together, a dotted half note is equal to 3 quarter notes in any time signature. And that's a dotted note, right? Dotted half note. Any dotted note works the same way. If I could have a dotted quarter note, well, a quarter note gets 1 count in 4/4 times, so the dot's going to get a half a count. So the whole thing together gets 1.5 counts. Wait till we get there and see how much fun that is. Huh? Now, upbeats. I said previously, music theory dictates that every measure's got to have a certain number of beats according to the time signature. In 4/4 time, every measure's got to have 4 counts to it. It's just the way it is. So immediately you look at the first measure and it's got 3. Well, that's called they call them upbeats. It's called a pickup measure, a partial measure. It's got all kinds of good names to it. Some not so nice, but yeah. What they do is they take the last measure of the piece, basically, and they chop it. So you take as many beats as you need for the pickup measure at the beginning, and the rest of the beats you need to fill out however many you're supposed to have, go at the end. So if you look at the last measure of the piece, it's got 1 beat in it. Well, take the last measure and put it together with that pickup measure, and you got 4 counts, and everybody's happy again, right? Okay, that's the way it works. Now, it can get a little tricky in some cases where you'll see the pickup beats at the beginning of the piece, but it's kind of hard to find sometimes the rest of the measure. Doesn't really matter. I mean, unless you're going to be a musicologist, a music theorist, I wouldn't worry about it. Just play it as it comes, all right? Just so you understand why one measure has 3 counts in it and another measure only has 1 count, and the rule is they all have to have the same. Now, at the bottom of this piece, in the last line at the end of it, the very end of the piece, you see what they call repeat signs. There is 2 bars with dots, and one for each, dots for each staff. Okay, it's called a repeat sign. For now, it means go back to the beginning and play it again. I'll change that later. Right now, just go back to the beginning and play it again. So when we play this, we're going to play it twice. Well, that comes in handy because if you see the words and you want to sing it, there's actually 2 verses. There's 2 sets of words. So if you want to sing all the words, you have to go twice. Yeah. Which is another clue. When you look at a piece of music and you see multiple verses like that, you know you're going to play it more than once, or could play it more than once. I don't sing them, so it doesn't matter to me, but yeah. In the left hand, you've got your chords again, the 1 chord and 5/7 chord we've been doing. Hopefully they're getting more comfortable to you. We got all these rests stuck in there, all over everywhere. Take a look at the first line where it's the first full measure where the right hand has a whole note in that C, or where it says is C. That C, remember, is the name of the chord, and that the chord used in that point on, in this case, the whole measure, because the chord can change any time, but we're only doing it in a measure right now. So you have here, and then you have the chord here. All of this together can be, a chord can be any number of notes, right? Some rules say it's got to be 3 or more notes. Some rules say 2 or more notes. You can do what you want. I say 2 or more notes is a chord. Sometimes 2, you can't really identify what the chord is with just 2 notes, and sometimes you can. So other times you can have 4 notes in it, but because of the way they're arranged, you still don't know what the chord is. You can't identify it. So to me, 2 or more notes is a chord, all right? You can believe what you want. You use whatever rule makes you happy. But this chord has 4 notes in it because there's 1 in the right hand. you're starting out with it, and then you're playing here. The whole thing makes a chord too. The sound, they're all 4 notes, and it's a C chord because the G is in the C chord. Right? So you know. Well, in the left hand, it's quarter rest, so you have to rest on count 1, and then play. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. So just make sure that you rest on count 1 in the left hand, because it's a rest. And be careful when you hold the notes down to make sure you lift them up at the right time. Don't hold them down more than they're supposed to. Half notes can only get 2 counts. Don't hold it down longer. Quarter notes get 1 count. Don't hold it down any longer than that. At the end, the last 2 measures, right hand, you got a whole note tied to a quarter note. So that's going to be held down for 5 counts. You're going to bring out the melody, right? They say with spirit. All right, you can interpret that any way you want. All right. I'm just going to play it. We're going to go real slow because we want to check the notes. You can do the with spirit stuff on your own. All right. Now, as far as the rhythm goes, there's a little bit of trickiness in here. I want to bring it to your attention. And it's in the 3rd and 4th lines. Actually, it's in the 3rd line. In the 3rd line. Well, let's start with 1 measure before that. So go to the last measure of the 2nd line. You have the D, the whole note D, and the quarter notes, the quarter rest, and the quarter notes. When you go to the next measure, you're holding the D down because it's tied. So you're not actually playing it now, you're holding it down. You already played it before, you're holding it down. But in the left hand, you got 1 quarter note. So you're going to go 1 rest. So you only hold it down for 1 beat. That D gets held down by itself for 1 beat. Okay? So if I start with a measure before and play the whole note, D, and the quarter notes in the left hand and go in, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And on beat 2, it's that D by itself. So make sure you don't hold the left hand down for 2 counts, like it's 1 count, that's it. On the 2nd measure of the 4th line, you have a dotted half note in the right hand that gets 3 counts. You have a half note chord in the left hand that gets 2 counts. They're not the same. On the 3rd count, the C is by itself, so it's 1, 2, 3. So on beat 3, it's the right hand C all by itself. The left hand is done after beat 2. Then, one more thing, on the last measure of the 3rd line, in the right hand it's a quarter note and a dotted half note. Alright? In the left hand it's a half rest, gets 2 counts. So the half note that your F and the, doesn't come in at beat 3. That's 1 note, it's 1 beat after the left hand plays the F. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So be careful on that. Don't play those together. That's not what's written. So try and be exact with that. Then at the beginning of the measure, the beginning of the last line, all right? Well, the right hand F is tied, so you're not going to play it again. But the left hand F is not tied, so you do play that. So if I start with the last measure of the 3rd line, and then I go on and play a couple measures, it's this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's okay? So you careful what you're holding down and not holding down and how long it's held down and blah, blah, blah. May have to practice it 1 hand at a time for a while until you get it if you're struggling. Also, if you haven't figured it out, or I haven't said it yet, I don't remember, your hands are in C position. You're not really moving around. The left hand, to get the 5/7 chord, the little finger has to go down 1 key. You ought to be able to do that without looking. I hope you can develop that feel. So when you play these, your ultimate goal is to be able to play the whole thing without looking at the keyboard at all. You want to do it all looking at the music. So you know what keys your fingers are on, and you're thinking, okay, I see a C, and I know my thumb is on, and the right hand is on that C, so that's what I'm going to play. And then the E, I know which finger's on the E, I don't have to look, I know what it is, I can picture it in my head. You can picture this stuff in your head, it helps a little bit. So Try it one-handed if you're struggling, one-handed at a time for a while. It's kind of important, okay? Music's only going to get more difficult. You can't be constantly looking at the music and looking down. It does not work. And you don't want to have to memorize the silly music in order to be able to play the thing. That's not the purpose of memory. That's something else. I'll talk about that at another time. Let's try this out. Now, because it has a pickup, 3 pickup, and when I count us in, I do it according to the time signature. I'm going to give us 4 full counts plus 1 count, and then we'll come on count 2. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, go, ba, and you come in on ba. All right, here we go. Hands. Well, you're starting out with the right hand thumb here, and then you're playing the chords again, so we're still in C position. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. Off.